Hello everyone, I'm Jiawen Zhang. Today I want to make a presentation about the serial criminal case we listened in this class. First of all, I would like to talk about what is investigative journalism and how does it differ from other types of journalism. How is serial investigative journalism? By definition, investigative journalism is a form of journalism in which reporters deeply investigate a single topic of interest, such as serious crimes, political corruption, or corporate wrongdoing. An investigative journalist may spend months or years researching and preparing a report. Compared with regular journalism, investigative journalism happens on a much larger scale. It often takes multiple investigative reporters and editors months or even years to produce a story. Another difference is that investigative journalism almost always involves something that's either illegal or deeply unethical, in which the parties involved make a fairly substantial effort to keep hidden. Serial is investigative journalism. Serial is investigative journalism because journalist Sarah Konish has spent a significant amount of time to figure out where Adnan Syed was for an hour after school on day in 1999. Although Sarah was not a detective or private investigator, she has tried very hard to figure out the alibi of the 17-year-old boy, Adnan Syed. Sarah literally had spoken to every important person in this case, such as Asia, who claimed that she saw Adnan in the library on that day after class. She also tried to speak to suspect S, who first found Hae Min Lee's body in Leakin Park on February 9th. She also listened to every conversation between Jay and the two detectives. Sarah even conducted experiments to see if she can complete the trip from the high school to the crime scene, Walmart, within 21 minutes. And if the timeline of Jay's story was correct, it's in this slide, I want to talk about what is the impact of this non-traditional way of covering a criminal case, podcast, versus a more traditional form such as television news story, documentary, article, etc. First of all, podcasting is a relatively new area of expansion for the genre. It's had a transformative effect. Beginning with serial in 2014, there's been an explosion of true crime and wrongful conviction retellings and analysis through audio. In fact, true crime podcasts often top the iTunes top podcast chart, generally considered the best measure of a show's popularity. Through a podcast, true crime fans can hear new content, but take a step further. Podcasts allow fans to become actively involved themselves by connecting with the host and other listeners and a growing network of criminal justice reform advocates. True crime podcasts are often at their best when they're covering stories that are still in need of answers or where justice may not have been done. That's where, when the public awareness and engagement that the podcast can inspire, have the best chance of making a real world impact on the cases being covered. Podcasts also provide an interactive, engaging, and investigative experience in a way that no other medium can match. There are several advantages for this non-traditional way of covering a criminal case. Compared with articles, documentaries, the audio format is powerful. When it comes to covering criminal justice system, audio often has the edge over written and televised coverage. Courtroom proceedings and police interviews tend not to be that visually interesting, but audio records of these same events are powerful and publicly available. Podcasting is a compelling way of bringing this content to the audience in a way that's both entertaining and in-depth. In addition, production costs are low compared with TV shows. One of the huge advantages of podcasts is their accessibility. That's true not just for podcast listeners, but also podcast producers. I believe this case is similar to the West Memphis Three. The reason is that the West Memphis Three's DNA and Adnan Syed's DNA were not found in the crime scene. According to Sarah, as for physical evidence, there was nothing, apart from some fingerprints in Hare's car, which Adnan had been in many times. There was nothing linking him to the crime. No DNA, no fibers, no hairs, no matching soil from the bottom of his boots. Mostly, the prosecutors relied on Jay Story's to build a case against Adnan. The difference is that the West Memphis Three fit the public perception of criminals, and Adnan Syed was a much better student. Adnan was on the football team. He was a star runner on the track team. He was the homecoming king. He led prayers at the mosque. Another case that is similar to Adnan Syed's case would be Jody's case. Jody was a suspect who brutally murdered her ex-boyfriend as he broke her heart. In this case, Hare broke Adnan's heart, and the prosecutors believe that he strangled her for revenge. In Jody Arias' case, there were so many awkward details about how they had sex together, also the text message in their phone, the vivid details of intercourse. In Adnan Syed's case, those details also were brought up in many occasions. The difference is that Jody's ex-boyfriend's body was found in his own apartment, but Hare's body was buried in Lincoln Park. I don't think Adnan's guilty, but there are still many questions that are still left unanswered for me. First of all, Asia wrote out an affidavit on the spot. In it, she says she and Adnan spoke for about 15 to 20 minutes while she was waiting for her boyfriend to give her a ride. Quote, "We left around 2:40." Quote, end of quote. Remember, Hare is supposed to be dead by 2:36, and then the kicker. No attorney has ever contacted me about January 13th, 1999, and the about information. Secondarily, Jay's storytelling wasn't consistent. In one interview, Jay told the police the Edmondson Avenue version of the story, and in another interview, he said it was actually Best Buy. Thirdly, the timeline wasn't right as well. From 12:07 until 6:07, the window of time is where Jay's story doesn't line up with the cell phone records, and the timeline he's giving is not lining up with the time of the cell phone calls. Lastly, I don't think Adnan had the motivation to kill his ex. According to his friend, Adnan already moved on. He was nice to he, according to Hare's new boyfriend Don. To me, he wasn't that kind of person who would kill his ex because of a breakup. Of course, for me, the biggest question left was who is the actual killer? If Adnan is innocent, what did Hare's note to Dawn mean when she said, "Sorry, I couldn't stay"? Was Jay covering up something that he did? I think Adnan will probably remain in prison because in 2019. Adnan will probably remain in prison because in 2019, the U.S. Supreme Court announced it will not consider an appeal filed by a convicted killer, Adnan Syed. He lacked evidence to prove that he's actually innocent. The tape in the library was wiped out. His defense lawyer died in 2004. I do think that he deserved a new trial, but without new evidence, it's hard for him to overturn that conviction. That's pretty much my presentation. Thanks for listening.